Hello and welcome once again to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. So glad that you could join us, and we appreciate that quite a bit. When it comes to ethics, we automatically jump to, politics or law enforcement. But what about ethics in healthcare? I have a physician that I see on a regular basis, and I think that she is an ethical and moral person. But if I were to become terminally ill, would her morality change? Would her outlook on my health, my mental stability, my emotional stability, would that be important to her? I like to believe that it would be. Our guest in studio today is returning with us to talk with us about healthcare ethics. Her name is Ann Farnin, and she is a healthcare ethicist doing her work in Orange County, California. Now, she received a Master of Science degree in healthcare ethics from Creighton University School of Medicine with a discipline in end-of-life care. And she's currently working in Orange County, California in an effort to help introduce and to implement more ethical standards of care as those ethical standards relate to the transitional treatment of terminally ill patients. Welcome back, Ann.
Thank you for having me back, Neil.
Thank you. When we were here before, we were talking about your role as a healthcare ethicist. I had never heard of a healthcare ethicist, but I've come to find out through speaking with you that hospitals use them quite often if they don't have someone on staff in-house all the time. What exactly is a healthcare ethicist for our listeners who aren't familiar with the term or the profession?
Well, a healthcare ethicist deals with ethical conduct. And in the world of healthcare and medicine, they deal with the moral negotiation and facilitation of conversations between healthcare professionals and patients when it deals with moral or ethical dilemmas that can't be decided rather quickly. And so they bring an outside expert in, such as myself, to sit down and facilitate the conversation between both parties and get both sides of the conversation and try to come to some resolution.
Mm-hmm. There are many disciplines within healthcare ethics, yours being focused on end-of-life care, advanced directives and wills, and what does a person who is headed toward death want done with their belongings, or how do they want to be memorialized and things of that nature. When the shock of being told that you're terminally ill takes hold, where do you come in if the healthcare provider is being less than understanding? Let's say if you had to sum up, say the top 5 most important aspects of your job as a healthcare ethicist, what would those be as far as your experience is concerned?
Well, first and foremost, the one thing that I always tell people, and whether they're terminally ill or they're completely healthy, I'm 55, so I'm of the baby boomer generation, and a lot of my friends right now are losing their parents and are becoming caregivers for their parents. So they're going through what I went through at a much earlier age. And so I'm telling people, if you want to have certain things and certain options and certain wishes and certain ways to be treated when you become terminally ill, document those now through an advanced directive. And I studied advanced directives up in Seattle for 2 years. And so I work with actually the 5 Wishes Advanced Directive, which is a nationally recognized advanced directive through Aging with Dignity organization, which was given a grant through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And instead of having to go to an attorney, you can actually fill out your own advanced directive yourself. So people don't have to pay thousands or hundreds of dollars to go to an attorney to have a living will. It used to be a living will, but now the advanced directive has taken place of the living will, because what it has done, it incorporates assigning a healthcare proxy within the same document. Oh, okay. So instead of going to an attorney and filling out a living will and then filling out or assigning a healthcare proxy, The advanced directive allows you to do both of those in one form.
Sort of a one-stop shop as opposed to two separate specialists.
Correct. And it also addresses 3 other issues. It addresses pain management. Mm-hmm. So you have the option of choosing how you want to be sedated or not sedated, or when, how often, even if it makes you drowsy or if it hastens your life, not intentionally. We're not talking about anything related to physician-assisted suicide or anything related to that, but just unexpectedly hastens your life, that you're okay with all of that. You're also able to write down how you want people to treat you, mainly with dignity and respect, by your bedside, to talk to you as if you're there as a patient and aware and understand what everybody is saying. And that, the 5th wish is what you want your loved ones to know. And so you can ask for specific music to be played or specific people to be around your bedside, or you can write anything down. I mean, me personally, just for transparency's sake, I keep mine on my desktop. I've already had a healthcare proxy. I give all my clients a laminated card to keep behind their driver's license that assigns their healthcare proxy. So if they end up in an ER or trauma room, they can call that person, and that person's aware of all of their wishes and has a copy of their advanced directive and can give directions to the ER or trauma team saying they don't want CPR, they don't want extraordinary measures, or they do. So it's important to have the discussions with people right now, what you want, before you end up in a place where you're incapacitated or you become terminally ill. This way you can get all of that out of the way, and you can spend the last weeks or months of your life, if you are terminally ill, with your loved ones, enjoying a great quality of life.
And that's why it's so important that advanced directives are important to the terminally ill as well as their family. It kind of takes a lot of the stress and confusion out. And as you said, you can spend your last moments with your family without all of the confusion, frustration, or all of the misinformation, or, the backbiting and fighting that goes on when someone approaches the end of life.
Yes, and the segment's too short to even talk about the stories that I've been through. It's horrific. It tears families apart, and it's the things I've seen and heard and been through myself. It's happened in my own family. You just you never know, but if you don't have those discussions early enough, and everybody's not on the same page, and you all have the same understanding of what everybody wants, and you respect it. Really the goal is, whether you agree with it or not, that you respect it, you don't judge it, and that you make sure that you promise them that we will follow your wishes. We will have your wishes followed. So whatever you want, we will take care of, and we will do. So for me, I want to be planted in my best friend's garden. Mm-hmm. And so that seems odd to a lot of people, but that's where I want to end up. So that's what I put in my advanced directive, and that's what's going to happen to me. So everybody's a little bit different, and you can put whatever you want. And that's what's great about it, is that it doesn't have, if you want a memorial service, if you want this, so you can write anything you want down on it. And also you can revoke it, so you can change it at any time. You can fill out a new one, but just do it now before you get sick. And so when you get sick and you just, change your mind, and maybe you do want CPR or extraordinary measures, mm-hmm. you can change your mind at any time. But if you put it in writing now, and you have a discussion with your loved ones, this is what I want, and you assign a healthcare proxy, mm-hmm. if for some reason you become unable to advocate for yourself, you have somebody that will follow and respect your wishes and advocate for you.
Makes sense. Now, as we wrap up this segment, I'd like to talk for a few minutes about, as you mentioned, everyone's different. You have different wishes than the person across the street, as opposed to the person across the country, or who is in another country or from another country. How often do you have to deal with the cultural differences among our population, and how difficult is it to get healthcare professionals to hone in on an understanding of some of the existing cultural differences, especially when they relate to this person entering the end of life phase?
Well, that's part of the transparency too, is that there are cultural differences, and that's I know that we had talked earlier about the top 5 things that I would put at the top of my list of what I feel are my duties as a healthcare ethicist. And part of that is really making sure that healthcare professionals or people understand that there are cultural differences between people and that people have different cultural rituals. And there was a sectarian act instated in 2011 where it stated that if you're in a hospital and they won't perform a procedure because of their religious affiliation or vice versa, that you can leave that hospital immediately or request a transfer. Mm-hmm. So people need to understand that they have rights associated with their beliefs, mm-hmm. Their cultural background, and their wishes.
Now, as an ethicist, a healthcare ethicist focused on end of life, often when a person approaches end of life, those around them are thinking, well, quality of life. They're not having a very good quality of life, and their life is about to end. When you encounter an attitude that, well, this person is dying, a lot of the things that were important to them, they're just not important anymore. I am going to do the things that I think should be done, regardless of cultural differences, opinions, or worldview. How does your job help someone to facilitate a smooth transition, even though some of the cultural traditions don't jibe with their personal worldview?
Well, that's why I copyrighted. I spent a couple of years and I wrote down pages of rights related to the 5 wishes. And each wish, I wrote down a set of rights that people need to know that they have when it comes to making their own decisions. So to give an example for pain management, they have the right to be sedated. They have the right to be groggy. They have the right to have medicine around the clock, or they have the right to choose not to have sedation. So what I do is I give people scenarios that they're not aware of. Like, if somebody is to experience a traumatic brain injury, do they want to be off a ventilator within 3 months? Do they want to go 6 months? I mean, there's different scenarios related to medical care and how you're treated in a particular facility, depending upon how long you're in that vegetative state. So people need to understand that if they don't know their rights, that they can't advocate for themselves. So there's also accountability on the patient side to really know what their rights are and understand what their role is in being their own consumer and advocate, in order to be able to let their healthcare treatment team know what they want, in addition to giving them a copy of their advance directive.
Great. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. It's been a pleasure talking with Ann Farnin in studio today, returning to talk with us about healthcare ethics focused on transitional treatment of terminally ill patients. We've been here talking about advanced directives. We've been talking about some of the cultural differences that play a part as a person nears their end of life. And we've also been talking about some of the differences in worldview that come into play and how some of those differences can be smoothed over, so that a person doesn't have to leave a hospital simply because a doctor or a surgeon or a nurse or someone feels a little bit edgy about this person's culture, or maybe their strange wishes for what should be done after their death. It's been great talking with you again, Ann.
Thank you, Neil. Great talking to you too.
Thank you so much. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm, and you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.